So when we broke, we were talking about the use of encrypted apps and how law enforcement, people outside of the sender and receiver generally can't read those messages if they're encrypted. What happens, let's say, if the encrypted app were to be deleted from the phone? Does that also tend to delete all the data associated with that encrypted app?
It can further complicate our ability to look at any data that might be left behind on the phone.
So if one were to delete an encrypted application, would it also tend to delete messaging from or associated to that particular application, that data?
Yes.
Is it also possible that although the application and therefore the messaging might be deleted, that you may still be able to find artifacts indicative of prior usage of an encrypted app?
Yes, that is the case.
Okay. So what types of encrypted apps, or which encrypted apps did you find evidence of in this particular case?
In this case, WhatsApp and something called Viber.
Viber.
Yes.
Okay. Looking at slide 46, tell us what we see here.
This is a screenshot from Viber and their website. And on April 19th, 2016, they have a company blog that announced, today we're excited to announce that our users will be able to securely communicate across all of their devices through end-to-end encryption.
And that was as of April of 2016.
Correct.
Okay. And so what does it mean to have end-to-end encryption? Is that, again, what we were talking about from the sender to the receiver?
Yes, essentially the service provider, the company that provides that app, has zero knowledge in terms of the content, because they themselves do not have the capability to decrypt the content of the message.
Okay. So again, that would mean that as a law enforcement officer, you would not be able to read those communications.
Yes, ma'am.
And looking here at slide 47, tell us what we are seeing, what you found evidence of with respect to the defendant's iCloud account.
Yes, so this is an Apple iCloud account, which comes in the form of a spreadsheet for this particular file. Associated with Mrs. Monica Sementilli, there is a registration email there, kalmatimo@hotmail.com, and it shows the actual installation of the Viber app per Apple's records.
Installation as of what date?
Let's see, April 2016.
Okay. And this is through, as you were showing us those linkage charts at the beginning, through a different type of business record, through the actual business records for the defendant's Apple iCloud account.
That's right.
Okay. And is there also information on this particular slide, I think it's 47, yes, that gives you information with respect to the actual data or the usage? You're filtering, it looks like, from September of 2015 through April of 2017, correct?
I'm sorry, filter, not necessarily the right terminology. Can I describe the...
Yeah, and I'm
Yes, that's correct.
So tell us what we're looking at here.
Sure. So in addition to the installation of Viber and several purchases that were made for services with Viber, it logged the IP address at the time of those transactions, which was 104.181.138.147, the IP address I know to be associated during a significant time period circa 2016 to early 2017 with the Sementilli residence.
The same IP address that we looked at earlier with respect to some of the other documentation, including, I believe it was Baker's, one of his Samsungs, correct?
That's right.
Okay. And so this is also purchases within the application itself?
Yes. Viber has some sort of sticker or emoji function where people can purchase sticker packs, and that's what those transactions were.
Okay. Sticker packs for emojis, such as if you were to send somebody a message, you could include an emoji like a heart or some other type of emoji on your message. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, similar to other modern messaging applications where users are able to use small graphical icons that represent happiness, sadness, laughter, hearts, and so on.
Looking at slide 48, is this another record that corroborates what you saw with respect to the usage of Viber through business records associated with the defendant's AT&T account?
Yes, it is.
And what did you indicate here on this particular slide, slide 48?
So this particular business record is a long text file that includes the AT&T web history associated with the 818-424-4213 phone number, and it logs web access to particular content, and the ones I've highlighted here in red include Viber.com, which is the Viber service.
Okay. So that also corroborates, again, the usage of this application during a period of time through the defendant's AT&T web history, correct?
Yes.
And approximately how many entries did you find between the period of installation in April of 2016 through, let's say, January 17th that you've indicated at the bottom of 2017?
433 entries in this particular record.
So what does that mean when you have an entry?
These companies keep their records in different formats, and that's why they look different when I show the screenshots of them. In the case of AT&T, they typically do records at 5-minute intervals, and the 433 just happens to be the way AT&T keeps track of the individual services and websites that people go to at those 5-minute increments.
So if we're looking at 433 entries, is that just between the defendant and Robert Baker?
Don't know for sure. We would need a larger swath of data from Viber to corroborate that.
Okay. What do we see here in slide 49 that you've captured?
Sure, and I apologize for the small print. It was the only way I could fit it on one slide. This is also from the Apple iCloud records, and it shows essentially app updates from the Apple Store for Viber over a period of time from April 20th, 2016 to January 4th, 2017.
Okay. So we know that it had to have been in use because it was installed at least during that time period.
Correct.
Okay. And what do we see here on the Celebrite report in slide 50?
So now this is a log entry directly from the phone, the iPhone that was associated with Mrs. Monica Sementilli. And this is a specific artifact known as a log entry kept by the device, indicating that there was Viber on the particular device.
And that was on the date of the murder in this case, correct? January 23rd of 2017?
That is correct.
Okay. So this is part of the forensic phone extraction that you viewed, correct?
Yes, it is.
All right. What do we see here that you've captured in slide 51 with respect to the Viber business records for the defendant's phone number?
Now we have the Viber business records from Viber as a business entity themselves, directly from them.
Okay. And you've indicated on here that there's 5,752 messages to and from the defendant's phone number, correct?
That is correct.
And all of these messages are between, as I asked in the prior question, the defendant and Robert Baker's phone, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's just the month of January of 2017 alone?
Yes, ma'am.
The 5,752 messages between them?
Yes.
Does that also, once again, include the Sementilli Wi-Fi address?
Not that I can see here.
Let's look here at slide 52, I believe. What did you capture here?
Yeah, so this is part of the Viber records that they produced. And this is a Viber call history, so telephone calls that are essentially routed through the Viber service. And this includes a caller and recipient IP address as part of that particular log file. That does have that same Wi-Fi address, 104.181.138.147.
So in addition to being able to send messages through this encrypted application, you can also make phone calls through the application.
Yes.
Okay. So what is it that you've highlighted here?
These are all the instances where that particular IP address shows in the record.
Okay. The Sementilli home IP address.
Correct.
Okay. And again, these would be this would be part of the record of the phone calls between the defendant and Baker in January of 2017.
Yes.
What do we see here in slide 53 that you've captured?
This is some data extracted from Mrs. Sementilli's iPhone that also shows phone calls that match the business records that were obtained from Viber. They show that there was a Viber contact tied to Mr. Robert Baker's number and given kind of a username of Louisa, and that these calls were deleted.
And I've note that you noted at the very end there that Baker's middle name is Lewis.
Yes.
Okay. When you say that the Viber contact for Baker's phone number was deleted, what does that mean?
According to the forensic data in the phone, and that's the column I've highlighted on the right-hand side with the red box, the calls were deleted from, or attempted to be deleted from the phone.
Okay. But they still came through in the extraction. At least you could see remnants or artifacts from that. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So at some time prior to their arrest on June 14th of 2017, when this particular cell phone was seized, the defendant attempted to delete the contact for Baker.
I'm cautious about saying who deleted what because I'm not present for that, but there was data that was deleted.
Okay. What do we see here in slide 54?
So I created a chart in Excel just showing for that approximate month period of time in January 2017 the volume of communications traffic between the phone number associated to Robert Baker and the phone number associated with Mrs. Sementilli on the Viber app.
And that, again, is just for the activity during the month of January of 2017?
Correct.
Date of January 22nd of 2017. It is pages in length. May it be marked as People's 159.
Yes.
Showing you the front page of Exhibit 159, that is 4 pages in length. Does this contain the Viber communications between the defendant and Baker just for the date of January 22nd of 2017?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have another timeline that is 4 pages in length again, and this is just for the date of January 23rd of 2017. May it be marked as People's 160.
It may.
Thank you. With respect to Exhibit 160, does this also document the communications from the defendant, including her communications to Baker on the day of the murder, January 23rd?
Yes.
All right. Looking at slide 56, can you describe, I'm sorry, this is slide 55, what you've captured here?
Yes, this is another screenshot showing some of the messaging that took place between the phone number associated to Mr. Baker and the phone number associated to Mrs. Sementilli via Viber on the afternoon of January 23rd, 2017.
Just the afternoon.
Yes.
And which hours is this between?
This is, let's see, 17, it's 5:48 to 8:14. This is essentially Eastern time, so we back it up 3 hours. So 2:48 to 5:14.
5:14.
Yes.
Looking at slide 56, Viber usage with respect to Baker's Samsung S4, what did you capture here?
This is another artifact. This one is from Mr. Baker's Samsung S4. It shows that Viber was in use on that device going all the way back to 2015.
Okay. And the following slide, slide 57, what is this?
This is a photograph recovered from the business records from Mr. Robert Baker's Dropbox account. And this particular image was recovered from the Dropbox account entitled viberimage.jpg.
So what does that mean?
Somebody, and I can't say who, named the file Viber image.
Okay. And this is, again, on Baker's Dropbox account.
Correct.
Contained within his Dropbox account.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. What do we see here in slide 58? Again, a linkage chart.
So as you know, I like these link charts. This is one for Viber in particular, and essentially it shows The use of Viber between the iPhone associated to Mrs. Sementilli and the Samsung S4 associated with Mr. Baker, and how those accounts, many of which we've just reviewed, all connect and overlap with each other.
Okay. The Samsung, in this case, the S4.
Yes.
Okay. And this is based on the various business records, such as what we see here, the AT&T business records or Dropbox business records, Viber records that we've been talking about.
Yes.
Okay. As well as, obviously, the data from the forensic extraction of their cell phones.
Correct.
All right. What do we see here in slide 59, which I believe you referenced at the beginning?
Yes, this was in one of my earlier link charts, and this is an artifact recovered from Mr. Baker's Samsung S4 in reference to a Facebook Messenger chat between himself and an account associated to Mr. Christopher Austin, and the content of that is download WhatsApp on your phone.
What is WhatsApp?
WhatsApp is one of the most popular chat applications in the world. It was purchased by Facebook, now known as Meta. It's used all over the world to facilitate instant messaging and phone calls. And it is end-to-end encrypted.
So once again, this is an application where you can message, or as we saw with Viber, you can make phone calls through the app.
Yes.
What's the purpose of that, making phone calls through the app?
It can vary. Sometimes, particularly with international audiences, it enables folks to keep in touch with each other without paying the astronomical fees from direct cellular phone calls. Okay.
So you said voice calls can be made. Can one also make video calls?
Yes.
We talked about sending messages.
Yes.
Documents.
Yes.
Videos.
Yes.
What do we see here in slide 60?
This is one of those basic subscriber information sheets. In this particular WhatsApp account is associated with Mr. Baker's 213-272-1093 phone number. And even though WhatsApp is encrypted, they do keep some data on their customers. And one of the things in this particular record is a list of all the contacts. And so underneath that top portion where it designates whose account it is, it's a list of all the phone numbers in the particular WhatsApp contacts, and that includes the 818 phone number associated with Mrs. Sementilli and a 907 phone number associated with Mr. Christopher Austin.
Okay. And what date is this that we're talking about?
Let's see, the date last changed June 13, 2017.
Okay. If I go back one slide to slide 59, this would have been on January 26th of 2017, 3 days after the murder, correct?
Yes.
The communication between Baker and Austin?
Correct.
Okay. Moving forward to slide 61. What is this?
This is another screenshot from that WhatsApp subscriber information. This one is associated with that 213-272 phone number affiliated with Mr. Baker. And it shows when the account was first created, when it was registered, and the first send, which is the first message, as well as underneath that a device name, and that's the sort of corporate name for a Samsung S6 device.
Okay. So this was a device that he had to have in his possession at the time this record was created on the day of the murder, correct? January 23rd.
Correct.
And the time, 23:40, does that have to be adjusted for UTC, or is that in fact 11:40 at night?
The WhatsApp records, unlike most of the other records we get, are actually in Pacific time.
Okay. So this is a record that was created at 11:40 the night of the murder.
Yes.
Okay. Relative to the phone number we know is associated with Robert Baker.
Yes.
Okay. Looking here at slide 62 with respect to the defendant's phone number, what do we see here?
Essentially, it's the same record as far as the type. This is a WhatsApp business record. This one is associated with that 818424 phone number. And as before, it shows when the account was created, registered, and when the first message was sent.
Okay. So that would have been 4 days after the murder on January 27th.
Yes.
At somewhere around 8:34 in the morning?
Correct.
Here in slide 63.
This is an artifact recovered from the iPhone associated to Mrs. Sementilli, and it has a contact entry in the phone for the WhatsApp account affiliated with Mr. Baker's phone number. And there is a push name, which is a display name of RB, and the number is listed as Louisa.
What is a display name or a push name? That's what comes up on your phone?
It's like a username.
Okay. And another linkage chart in slide 64. Explain what you have displayed here.
Sure. And it's similar to the Viber link chart. This is now one for WhatsApp, showing the connections and references across different devices and accounts, and the usage of WhatsApp to include the Samsung S8, the Samsung S6, which we know about from the WhatsApp records themselves, the iPhone 7 associated with Mrs. Sementilli, and the various phone numbers for all parties.
Looking at slide 65, Viber to WhatsApp timeline. What did you display here?
So in addition to showing kind of the linkages between these accounts, I like to see the context of these different accounts over time. And that's what I've done here, is essentially create a timeline for most of the data that we've already seen individually to put it in some sort of context. So starting at the top from the iCloud records, we have when Viber was first installed on the iPhone associated to Mrs. Sementilli. Then we've got Viber activity spread across the AT&T web history. We've got Viber app updates also taking place over time in the iCloud records. We've got ongoing Viber chats between the account associated to Mr. Baker and Mrs. Sementilli from the end of 2016 through most of January. That's the 5,000 plus messages.
5,700?
5,700, yes. We've got log entries from the S4, from the iPhone. We've got the WhatsApp records themselves for the creation of new WhatsApp accounts, the direction from Mr. Baker's Facebook Messenger account to the Austin Facebook Messenger account to download WhatsApp, and then the creation of a WhatsApp account on January 27th by the phone number associated with Mrs. Sementilli.
Okay. So from this, we can see that prior to the murder, the defendant and Baker were using Viber as their encrypted app for means of communication, and then after the murder, they switched to using WhatsApp as their encrypted app.
Yes.
And what do we see here in slide 66?
So this is a business record from Facebook, from Mr. Baker's associated Facebook account, and it shows the removal of certain friends from that account. And there are two of them associated to Mr. Christopher Austin. The first one, the user is Christopher Austin, and the removal of that account was on January 26th, 2017. And the second one is a second account for Mr. Austin, Chris Vocals, and that one was removed June 1st, 2017.
Okay. So the first one, he's removing Austin as basically a friend from his Facebook account.
Yes.
January 26th, and at 1:52 a.m. local time, correct?
That's right.
And the second being another Facebook account for the same individual, Christopher Austin, under the name Chris Vocals on the June 1st date.
Yes.
All right. Let's look at slide 68. What do we see here?
This is some articles of incorporation obtained via the California Secretary of State Business Search. These are freely available to the public and can be downloaded. And this pertains to a company established called Oz Entertainment Group Incorporated by the agent of record noted here in the lower right, individual Robert Baker. And that was back in August 2002.
Okay. Looking here at slide 69, what did you capture?
This is a historical web shot of the OzEntertainmentGroup.com website, which originally was launched in 2004 approximately, and this is the website as it appeared in June of 2016. And it has a contact page, which is common for websites, that lists the email address admin@oeg1.com.
So what does that mean? Because we've seen this OEG email address or website before. Is that a domain?
It is a domain.
So what does that mean?
It's a website. Essentially, and if we can all together kind of flash back to before the social media era, individuals were launching websites quite commonly. And that still does happen. But in order to register a website, you have to pay a company like GoDaddy and put in registration information. And the image here shows a screenshot of what purports to be Mr. Baker's website from about June 2016, which seems to be affiliated with the business that he set up in the early 2000s.
Okay. So once you have a web domain, can you have multiple different email addresses for or through that web domain?
Yes, that's very common.
Okay. So you could have like the Arball one that we've seen or the OEG1.com. All of those would be
Yes.
various email addresses that you would have through the same website, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if you use, as you were mentioning, GoDaddy, would that be a way to forward emails from your web domain to your email account?
So when you register a website, in the portal where you log in to sort of manage your website, you can choose to establish new email accounts. You can also have those email accounts forward to other email accounts, depending on the services offered by the company hosting that website.
Okay. So if he registered that website, Mr. Baker, that would mean that he would have control over all of those functions.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Looking here at slide 70, what does this depict?
These are some messages from Mr. Baker's Facebook account where he references R-ball, and as an investigator, it gave me the context for what R-ball was. It's shorthand for racquetball.
Okay. And here's slide 71. This is the domain registration we were talking about?
Yes.
And this also is not only in the name of Robert Baker, but it also has the Oz Entertainment as the organization name.
That's right.
With an associated, it looks like a P.O. box and another phone number, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when did this R-Ball 1 registration occur?
May 11th, 2015.
Okay. Looking here at slide 72, what does this show us?
These are artifacts from Mr. Baker's Samsung S4, and it shows a web history and some of the websites that particular device visited. This would have been on May 11th, 2015, and it shows rball1.com as the website.
Okay. And looking here at slide 73, what does this depict?
More information that corroborates the registration and renewals of the rball1.com website. This is from the records from the oeginc@gmail.com Google account, and this particular record comes from the mail that was produced, the email that was produced for that particular account, showing GoDaddy renewal information for his various websites.
Okay. And what do we see here in slide 74?
This is also from Mr. Baker's associated Facebook account. It appears to be a typo, probably intended to be league, but it has an email address of, I'm going to say league for lack of a better phrase, league@rball1.com.
Looking at slide 75, is this the auto forwarding service that you were talking about?
Yes, this is just a screenshot from GoDaddy themselves showing that, yes, in fact, you can set up auto forwarding through their service.
Okay. And what do we see here in slide 76? This is relative to Hotmail. So this is with respect to the defendant's Hotmail account, correct?
That's right. This would be that kalmati-mo@hotmail.com email account.
And what did you note here?
So the records themselves were voluminous, high volume, but they came in several file folders, and there was a folder entitled Recoverable Items /Deletions. So these were 4 emails that were deleted from that Hotmail account.
So of all of the emails contained within the mailbox, you found only 4 that had been deleted in the defendant's Hotmail account through the business records?
Yes, ma'am, only 4.
Is this through the business records or through the phone extraction?
This is, what we're seeing right here is from the Hotmail business records.
Okay. And were you able to determine what those 4 emails were?
Yes.
Okay. Let's look at slide 77. What did you depict here?
This just shows how voluminous the email was when I received it and started looking through it. So most folks nowadays get a lot of email spam. We have a large inbox of 12,760 messages. Sent messages were 1,682, but only 4 were deleted.
Okay. Looking here at slide 78, what does this show us?
This is also from the business records from Microsoft's Hotmail service, and this shows contacts, so email contacts in this particular case. And there was a highlighted entry here. I added the highlight that shows a log entry in that contact list for quick name Rob.
What's a quick name? Is that the same thing as what we were talking about earlier?
It's like a nickname or a username.
Okay.
So we have a username of Rob. We've got that 213-272-1093 phone number also listed there. And then the contact email is diane@arball1.com.
Okay. So that would be something that a user would, again, plug into their phone in order to decide how they wanted that particular individual to appear?
Yes.
Okay. And so out of the defendant's Hotmail account, this is how Rob Baker is identified in her phone or in her email.
In her email, yes.
Okay. Looking at slide 79, looking at iPhone contacts, what do we see here?
This now is an artifact from Mrs. Sementilli's iPhone, also showing the presence of the same diane@arball1.com email affiliated to a contact called Diane Racquetball in the phone.
Okay. And what did you note at the bottom with respect to this log entry with regarding the defendant's forensic cell phone extraction?
There were also two other email addresses in there for arball1.com. One was league@arball1.com, and the other was rob@arball1.
Okay, and that league at Arball1, I think a few slides ago, I'm going back to, I think this is slide 74, where you talked about there being a typo. This is the same league at Arball1 that we saw that was registered to Baker.
Yes.
Okay. All right, looking here at slide 80, with respect to those 4 deleted emails out of the thousands in the defendant's email account, what did you learn?
So this particular slide has screenshots of 3 of the 4 email addresses. And these emails sent from the kalmadimo@hotmail.com to this Diane@arball1 email address pertained to the travel and itinerary of a Mr. Fabio Sementilli.
So she sent an email to Robert Baker at this email account regarding her husband's travel itineraries.
Yes.
Okay. And then deleted it after she sent it.
Correct.
Okay. You said that was 3 of them.
That was 3 of the 4 here.
Okay. And what do we see here that you've depicted in slide 81?
This is just a larger screenshot of one of the attachments in one of those 4 emails that shows one of the agenda items for some travels for Mr. Sementilli.
On the left, under where it says Wella?
Yes, on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, just to do a comparison, during the same time period, the Instagram account, Monica_Sementilli, was making posts that were tagged to the Woodland Hills area, seemed to indicate the extreme heat at that time.
Okay. So at the same time that she's sending travel itineraries to Robert Baker, she is posting on her Instagram account.
In approximately the same time range.
In June of 2016.
Yes.
Early June of 2016. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. What do we see here in slide 82?
So this is the 4th of the 4 deleted emails from kalmadimo@hotmail.com. And this particular email is a forward from a company called First Digital Surveillance to Diane@arball1.com.
So does it indicate what date this was sent?
Yes.
And what date was that?
June 28th, 2016.
So on June 28th of 2016, the defendant forwards what's referred to in the subject line, First Digital Surveillance DVR System Operation and User Manual, to Robert Baker.
The Hotmail account forwards exactly that.
And after she forwards that information, she then deletes it, the forwarded email, from her account.
The email then shows up in the deleted folder.
So that's the fourth out of the 4 deleted emails that you indicated you were able to, that you found in going through her email account.
Yes.
And what do we see depicted here in slide 83?
This is still part of that same email from First Digital Surveillance, the company. It's a long email, and the email includes instructions, specific instructions for how to log in to the home closed-circuit television system First Digital set up at the Sementilli residence. This particular slide shows that in order to log in, you have to input that specific IP address of 104.181.138.147.
The same IP address that we've seen now in multiple slides, including the one where Robert Baker, on this particular date, June 28th of 2016, saved the Sementilli IP address.
Yes.
And were you able to actually verify that that IP address was still valid?
Yes.
And how did you do that?
There was an Instagram post that was made in late January, and
By who?
By the account associated with Mrs. Sementilli, Monica _Sementilli.
Okay.
And the post shows Mr. Sementilli's chair, favorite chair, I think. And there's an IP address that's logged in the record that shows it's the same IP address at the house.
That was a photograph that was posted 2 days after her husband was murdered.
I'd have to look at the record, but yes.
And so in order for someone, again, as you were mentioning, to be able to remotely access the Sementilli CCTV or home surveillance system, that individual would need the information that we see here on this particular slide.
Correct.
And what did you indicate here in slide 84? Is this a continuation of that same deleted email that the defendant got from First Digital and forwarded to Baker and then deleted?
Yes.
And what does this indicate?
This is further down in that long email, and it shows some additional login information specifically for using the app called IDMSS Lite, which is for iPhone, in order to view one's closed-circuit television system the way First Digital has set it up.
Okay. And so this would have been an email that would have been deleted from the sent folder, correct?
Correct.
What do we see here that you've depicted in slide 85?
Just to get an understanding of what the app looks like, on the left-hand side is what the IDMSS app appears to be on Apple's store. And then there's also a Google Android version called GDMSS in their Android Play Store.
Okay. So if you're using an Apple iPhone, the IDMS Lite would be the application you would use. However, if you're using an Android, like a Samsung, this would be the application one would use.
That's right.
Okay. And what did you show here in slide 86 relevant to the deleted email regarding access to the Sementilli home surveillance system?
So this is another record from Apple, and this particular record shows that the app, the IDMSS Lite app, was installed on the account associated with Mrs. Sementilli, and that it was installed on June 28th, 2016.
So she has that installed, and you were able to determine that from the actual business records from iCloud?
Yes.
And iCloud is an Apple product, correct?
Yes.
And if you have an iPhone, your iPhone, you can set your iPhone so that it will back up automatically to your iCloud?
You can choose what you want to sort of sync with Apple's servers. So they provide a service called iCloud, and they also keep meticulous records on their customers, including which apps are installed, which apps are purchased. And this particular app, the IDMSS Lite app, was installed in relation to her account.
And that was something that you were able to view from reviewing the business records subpoenaed from Apple.
Yes.
Okay. Showing you slide 87. What did you depict here?
So this is an artifact from Mr. Baker's Samsung, and this shows that the email diane@arball1.com was automatically forwarded eventually to his oeginc@gmail.com email address.
Okay. What do we see here in slide 88 with this linkage chart?
This essentially shows the route of travel for that particular first digital surveillance email. So we have the kalmadimo@hotmail.com in the lower left. We know that's associated with Mrs. Sementilli. Forwarded the first digital surveillance email. It then lands at the diane@arball1.com email address, and then is automatically forwarded to the rob@oeg1.com email address, and finally lands in the oeginc@gmail.com account associated with Mr. Baker.
Okay. And when you mentioned his Samsung, this would have been the Samsung S4?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you actually confirm that the Sementilli CCTV or DVR instructions were actually found in Baker's inbox?
Yes.
From looking at his forensic extraction?
Yes, I did.
Okay. By the way, did you also have the opportunity to look at Fabio Sementilli, the victim in this case, the forensic extraction from his cell phone, which was also an Apple iPhone, number 67?
Yes, I did.
And did he have that installed on his cell phone?
He did not have the IDMSS Lite app.
Okay. And given that we know that we never recovered a Samsung S6 that you showed registered to Baker, you have no idea whether or not that application might have been on that cell phone that was never recovered, correct? You can't tell that from the records.
Objection. Facts on evidence regarding the owner of that Samsung.
It's overruled.
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. Tell us what we see here in slide 89.
Yes, so this is that Instagram post I had spoken about a few moments ago from the Monica Sementilli Instagram account. And it shows the favorite chair of Mr. Sementilli with some cigar memorabilia, a baseball hat on top of it. And this post was made January 25th, 2017 at 10:31 local time. And it includes the IP address that was logged as part of Instagram's records.
This is showing us again 2 days after the murder, and that time 10:31, would that be AM?
Yes.
Okay. By the way, did you have an opportunity to review the victim's cell phone extraction for any potential conference calls on the date of installation, June 28th of 2016, of the CCTV with anybody from First Digital?
Yes, I did.
And were you able to find any indication that his phone was utilized for a conference call with anybody from First Digital on the date of installation, June 28th of 2016?
I was not.
Looking at the next slide here, which I believe is 90. Yes. What did you depict here?
So this is a single still of a video that will subsequently play, taken from the Target store. And this is on January 23rd, 2017. It depicts Mrs. Sementilli in the lower left-hand corner interacting with her smartphone.
That's her in the sweatshirt that we see in the background, the gray sweatshirt, black leggings, white pennies.
Yes, ma'am. Currently at the middle top of the screen.
And this is video footage that you got from robbery homicide detectives relating to the defendant's actions on the day of the murder, January 23rd of 2017 at 4:32 p.m.
That's right.
From the local Target store?
Yes.
What was the relevance of what we just saw?
As a digital investigator, attribution is very important. It's one of the reasons I do so much work to corroborate across all these different accounts. And in this particular video, Mrs. Sementilli is interacting with her phone, which to me as the investigator shows that she has full control of that device at that particular time.
Okay. Let's look at the next slide. I believe this is slide 92. What does this indicate?
This is an artifact from Mrs. Sementilli's iPhone, and it shows the presence of a log entry for the IDMSS Lite app with the most recent log entry on January 23rd, 2017.
At a particular time?
11:53 UTC.
And the 11:53, once it's converted, is that 3:53 in the afternoon?
3:53 in the afternoon, yes.
Okay. And does this indicate access through the home IP address?
No, I don't see the IP address on this particular file.
Okay. In terms of this particular artifact from the Celebrate extraction on her phone, were you able to gather any information from the data that is displayed here?
Sure. So in addition to the date and the time stamp that shows the most recent usage per the log of that particular app, it also shows the approximate amount of data that was coming in and going out of the phone, and that's shown in the center column where it says Wi-Fi in, Wi-Fi out, and then WAN in and WAN out. WAN stands for Wide Area Network. If this device was at home and connected to Wi-Fi, we would see data associated with the Wi-Fi. But because it's out in public, it's essentially using the data towers, the cell phone towers, to receive internet traffic. So here we have WAN in bytes, and it's a fairly large number. Put my commas in. 32,092,462.
What's a byte?
A byte is a small unit of data. When we're talking about data actually being transmitted, it's bits. But it's similar, if you remember, for a long time we operated in the world of kilobytes, and then we went to megabytes and gigabytes, and now we're in a world of terabytes. So this is the smallest unit of measurement, which is bits of data being transmitted.
So since she's not at home, and as we saw in the video, she's connecting or using her phone, what does this indicate about that usage?
She's out and about in public. She's away far enough from the residence or other known Wi-Fi access points so that she's essentially getting whatever traffic is associated with the IDMSS Lite app is coming down from the local data tower, in this particular case, AT&T.
So it's being downloaded, the data, to her phone?
Yes, I like to use the analogy, what goes up must come down when it comes to the internet, as far as things that are uploaded can then be downloaded. She's the recipient on the receiving end of that, and so that's why it shows in instead of out. Okay. If that makes sense.
The WAN in versus WAN out?
Right.
Okay. So the records show the distinction?
Yes.
Okay. And with respect to the high data amount that you talked about, the 32 million, what is that consistent with?
So that's consistent with essentially streaming video. Video is a high bandwidth activity. If we think about watching movies on any of these services common nowadays like Netflix, it's a lot more data coming down as it's being downloaded than, say, a text message or just a simple photograph. Streaming video, even in 2017, is still a fairly sizable amount of data, a chunk.
Okay. Let's look at what we see in the AT&T records in slide 93 with respect to the data. What does this tell us?
So now we have AT&T internet records associated with that 818-424-4213 phone number, which is associated to Mrs. Sementilli. And this corroborates some of the data traffic found in that artifact off of the phone. Additionally, it shows that the IP address associated with the Sementilli residence was being accessed multiple times on January 23rd, local time, between a span of about 4 o'clock in the afternoon and 5:15 p.m.
So this would be a separate type of record that you're looking at for data, correct? That corroborates what we just saw with respect to the IDMSS Lite application data from her Celebrite, her forensic phone extraction.
Yes, so the previous slide was essentially the device, the phone itself. This particular record is pertaining to the tower, the AT&T data itself.
So would this be consistent with when you said streaming video from her surveillance, her live surveillance feed from her CCTV cameras?
Yes, especially early on, it shows a spike, if you will, in data coming in via AT&T.
Why is that important?
It's consistent with the streaming of video.
Okay. Let me switch over for a moment. A one-page document that has AT&T record regarding the defendant's cell phone 818-424-4213. May it be marked as People's 161. And I believe that this record, along with other AT&T records, are contained on a DVD, which we've marked as Exhibit 156. Showing you Exhibit 161. Can you describe for us what we're looking at here?
Just shown. This includes all of the logged activity in that AT&T data record for that home IP address of 104.181.138.147. And there are a total of 10 entries between 4 o'clock in the afternoon and 5:15.
10 entries to the home IP address?
Yes.
Did I have you explain this? The AT&T mobility records, this also shows, this corroborates what we just looked at, correct?
Yes, so AT&T, very meticulous in their record keeping, has another set of records that shows all the data coming in to that particular device. Doesn't show IP addresses like the other record did, but this one does show bytes down, and consistent with the other information we've just seen, it shows, again, a surge in downloaded activity coming into that device.
What is that surge consistent with? The same thing we've been talking about, accessing the CCTV cameras through your home IP address onto your phone while you're remote outside of your home?
Yes.
Okay. Looking at slide 95, another linkage chart, what do we see here?
This is my visual representation of everything I just talked about to hopefully help it make sense. In the bottom left-hand corner, we've got the app where the user would open up and log in and view the actual video footage itself. And the app resides one step up on the device, on the phone, and the phone is getting its internet traffic off of a nearby cell tower, which is operated by AT&T. In order then to access everything at home, the information at home, it has to have the IP address, the 104.181 IP address. It hits the router back at home. Then it goes to the actual DVR system, a box. And the box is getting video from the cameras themselves. So that's kind of the route of travel as it goes from back home to the device, the phone.
Which would be consistent with all the different types of business records we just looked at.
Yes.
So we're going to interrupt. We're going to take our lunch and recess until 1:30. The admonition applies. You're not to discuss this case either among yourselves or with anyone else or to form or express any opinion until the cause is finally submitted to you. Have a good lunch.